A waitress insults the wrong man in the wrong room, and instead of breaking her, the most dangerous man in the city decides he wants to own her. What starts as a brutal transaction becomes something far more twisted when obsession turns into something neither of them can control. If you're ready for a story about power, passion, and the thin line between captivity and desire, stay until the end. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. And let's dive in. Clara Bennett's shoes were falling apart. Not metaphorically, literally. The sole of her right sneaker flapped with every step she took across the diner floor, making a wet slapping sound that reminded her she'd been meaning to buy new ones for 3 months. But new shoes cost money, and money went to her mother's medication, the overdue electric bill, the rent that was already 2 weeks late. She wiped down table 6 for the 3rd time that hour, her fingers raw from bleach water and the cheap industrial soap they used in the back. The clock above the register said 11:47 p.m. 13 more minutes and she could lock the doors, count the pathetic tips in the jar, and drag herself home to the one-bedroom apartment where her mother slept in the only bed while Clara took the couch. "Clara, you look like death." Marcus, the night cook, leaned through the kitchen window, his face shiny with grease and concern. "When's the last time you slept?" "I sleep. Actual sleep. Not passing out from exhaustion." She didn't answer. There wasn't a good answer. Between the diner, her weekend shifts at the grocery store, and taking care of her mother, sleep was a luxury she'd given up somewhere around the time the doctors started using words like terminal and palliative care. The bell above the door chimed. Clara looked up, already forming the words, "We're about to close," but they died in her throat. 3 women walked in, and they didn't belong. Not here. Not in this part of town where the linoleum was cracked and the coffee tasted like burnt dirt. These women wore clothes that cost more than Clara made in 6 months, designer heels that would break on these floors, makeup so perfect it looked airbrushed. The one in front, tall, blonde, poured into a dress that was basically liquid silver, looked around the diner like she'd just stepped in dog shit. "Oh my God, Simone, are you serious right now?" She turned to the woman behind her, a brunette who was slightly less horrified but still clearly regretting her life choices. "This is where you wanted to eat?" "I told you there's a place around here that does amazing pancakes. This is not that place." Clara approached with her notepad, trying to summon the customer service smile that usually came automatically. "Hi, what can I get you?" The blonde looked at her like she was part of the furniture. "Is your kitchen even open?" "For another 10 minutes. "We'll pass." She turned to leave, her friends already following. "Wait." The third woman, a redhead who'd been quiet until now, grabbed the blonde's arm. "Let's just get coffee. I need to sober up before Victor sees me like this." The blonde hesitated, then sighed dramatically. "Fine. 3 coffees. Black." Clara poured the coffee, her hands moving on autopilot while her brain tried to process what she was seeing. These women didn't just have money. They had the kind of money that came with bodyguards and private cars and lives she couldn't even imagine. She set the cups down. The blonde took one sip and made a face like she'd been poisoned. "This is undrinkable." "It's coffee," Clara said, her patience finally snapping. She was too tired for this, too broke, too fucking done with rich people treating her like dirt. "You wanted black coffee, you got black coffee. If you don't like it, there's a Starbucks 6 blocks north." The other 2 women went silent. The blonde's expression shifted from disgust to genuine shock. "Excuse me? You heard me." Clara could feel Marcus watching from the kitchen, probably trying to telepathically tell her to shut up, but something had broken loose inside her. "Look, I get it. This place isn't fancy, the coffee tastes like ass, but you walked in here 2 minutes before closing, ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, and now you're acting like I personally ruined your night. So either drink the coffee or leave, but I'm not going to stand here and apologize for doing my job." For a moment, nobody moved. Then the redhead started laughing. "Oh my God, I like her." She raised her cup in a mock toast. "You're right. We're being assholes. Sorry." The blonde still looked offended, but the brunette was smiling now too. "Simone's not usually this bad. She's stressed because we're supposed to be at Aurelius in 20 minutes and we got lost." "Aurelius?" Clara had heard of it. The kind of nightclub where you needed connections just to get on the waiting list for the waiting list. Victor's hosting some kind of event, the redhead explained. We're already late, and Simone's convinced he's going to have us thrown out. He won't throw us out, the blonde, Simone, said. He'll just make that face, you know the one. The I'm not angry, just disappointed face. Worse, the you're wasting my time face. They were warming up now, the coffee forgotten, talking about this Victor person like he was some kind of terrifying deity. Clara refilled their cups without being asked, curious despite herself. So who is this guy, your boss? Something like that, the brunette said vaguely. He's complicated. He's scary as fuck, the redhead corrected, but he pays well and throws good parties, so we tolerate him. Simone checked her phone and swore. We have to go, now. She threw down a $100 bill for 3 cups of coffee that cost $1.50 each and stood up. Wait, your change. Keep it. Simone was already heading for the door, her friend scrambling after her. And hey, waitress, you've got balls. I respect that. Then they were gone, leaving Clara standing there with a $100 bill in her hand and the strangest feeling that her night had just gotten weirder than usual. Marcus emerged from the kitchen. Did that just happen? I think so. Did you just tell off someone who probably has more money than God? Yeah. And she tipped you $100? Clara looked at the bill. It was real. Apparently. Huh. Marcus started cleaning the grill. Rich people are fucking weird. Clara pocketed the money, her mind already calculating. That was almost enough for her mother's next prescription. Almost. She'd need another $50 to cover it completely, but this was more than she'd made in tips all week. She finished closing up the diner, counted out her meager share of the tip jar, and walked home through streets that smelled like garbage and rain. Her apartment building was the kind of place where the elevator had been broken for 6 months, and nobody bothered to fix it. She climbed 4 flights of stairs, her knees aching, and let herself into the dark apartment as quietly as possible. Her mother was asleep, her breathing raspy and uneven. Clara stood in the doorway of the bedroom, watching the rise and fall of her chest, counting the breaths like she did every night, making sure there would be a tomorrow. She changed into the same oversized t-shirt she'd been sleeping in for a week and collapsed onto the couch. Her phone buzzed. A text from the grocery store manager asking if she could cover an extra shift on Saturday. She replied yes before her brain could talk her out of it. Sleep came hard and fast, dragging her under before she could even pull the blanket over herself. She dreamed of coffee and $100 bills and women in silver dresses, and somewhere in the dream there was a face she couldn't quite see, watching her with interest that felt like danger. Clara woke up to her mother coughing. It was the bad kind of coughing, the kind that sounded like something breaking inside her chest. Clara was up and moving before she was fully conscious, grabbing the water glass from the nightstand, helping her mother sit up, rubbing circles on her back until the fit passed. I'm okay, her mother wheezed, but her lips had that bluish tint that meant she wasn't. I'm calling Dr. Patel. Clara, we can't afford... I don't care. She grabbed her phone, but her mother's hand closed around her wrist. The grip was weak, trembling. Please. Not yet. I just need to rest. Clara wanted to scream, wanted to grab her mother and drag her to the hospital, whether she liked it or not. But they both knew what that would mean. More bills, more debt, more nights of Clara working herself to death just to keep them both alive. Okay, she whispered. But if it gets worse, I know. She helped her mother lie back down, adjusting the pillows, pulling the blanket up. In the morning light filtering through the thin curtains, her mother looked smaller than she had yesterday, like she was disappearing piece by piece. Claire went through the motions of getting ready for her shift. Shower. The same jeans she'd worn 3 days in a row because she only owned 2 pairs. A t-shirt that used to be white but had faded to gray. Hair pulled back in a ponytail because she didn't have time or energy for anything else. The diner was already busy when she arrived, the morning rush in full swing. She tied on her apron and dove in, refilling coffee, taking orders, pretending she was a person who had slept more than 4 hours and wasn't slowly dying inside. It wasn't until her lunch break that things got strange. She was sitting in the alley behind the diner, eating a stale bagel and scrolling mindlessly through her phone when a black car pulled up to the curb. Not just any car, the kind of car that probably cost more than her entire building. A man got out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that was so perfectly tailored it looked like it had been grown on him. He had dark hair, sharp features, and the kind of face that would be handsome if it wasn't so fucking intimidating. He looked directly at her. Clara's first instinct was to run. She didn't know why. Something about the way he moved, the way he looked at her like he already knew everything about her, set off every alarm bell in her head. But she stayed frozen on the milk crate she was using as a chair, bagel halfway to her mouth, while he walked toward her with the unhurried confidence of a man who always got what he wanted. "Clara Bennett," he said. Not a question. Her stomach dropped. "Who the fuck are you?" The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. "My name is Victor Orloff. I believe you met some of my associates last night." Victor, the scary boss those women had been talking about. "I didn't meet them. I served them coffee. And insulted one of them, from what I hear. She insulted me first." "Did she?" He tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Simone said you had balls. I wanted to see for myself." "Well, you've seen me. Congratulations. Now fuck off." She regretted the words the instant they left her mouth. This man didn't look like someone you told to fuck off. This man looked like someone who made people disappear for less. But instead of getting angry, he smiled. Actually smiled. "I like you," he said, and somehow that was more terrifying than if he'd threatened her. "Tell me, Clara, how much debt are you in?" The world tilted sideways. "What?" "It's a simple question. Your mother's medical bills, your rent, the credit cards you maxed out trying to keep her alive. How much?" Her blood turned to ice. "How do you know about my mother?" "I know everything about you." He said it so casually, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "You work 2 jobs, sometimes 3. You're 24 years old and you've already had 2 wage garnishments. You steal food from the diner because you can't afford groceries. Your mother has stage 4 lung cancer, and you've been rationing her pain medication because you can't afford the full prescription." Clara stood up, the bagel falling from her hand. "You're insane. Stay away from me. Sit down." It wasn't a request. His voice didn't get louder, didn't get angry, but something in it made her knees weak. She sat. Victor moved closer, and she could smell his cologne now, something expensive and dark that made her think of smoke and leather. He crouched down so they were eye level, and this close she could see that his eyes were gray, storm cloud gray. "I'm going to make you an offer," he said quietly. "And I want you to listen very carefully, because I don't make offers twice. I don't want anything from you. You don't even know what I'm offering yet. I don't care. Whatever it is, the answer is no." He smiled again, and this time it was almost gentle. Almost. "Your mother has 6 months to live, maybe less. The doctors have given up on her because she can't afford the treatment that might actually save her life. But I can afford it. I can get her into the best oncology program in the country. I can erase every dollar of debt you have. I can give you a life where you don't have to steal day-old bread just to survive." Clara's throat closed up. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "What do you want?" Her voice came out broken. "You." The word hung in the air between them like a knife. I don't understand." "I think you do." Victor reached out, and she flinched, but he just tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was tender and possessive all at once. "I want you, Clara, in my home, in my life, under my protection. You want me to be your whore. I want you to belong to me." He said it like there was a difference. "Your time, your attention, your presence. In exchange, your mother lives. You live. You never have to worry about money or debt or whether you can afford to eat again." "That's insane, That's my offer." She laughed, and it came out slightly hysterical. "You're actually serious. You're actually sitting here asking me to, what, be your prisoner?" "I prefer the term companion." "I don't give a fuck what you prefer. This is crazy. You're crazy. I'm not—" She stood up again, backing away from him. "No, absolutely not. I don't care what you're offering. Find some other desperate girl to play your sick games with." Victor stood slowly, smoothing down his suit jacket. He didn't look angry. He looked patient, like he'd expected this reaction. I'll give you 24 hours to think about it. I don't need 24 hours. The answer is no. We'll see. He pulled out a business card and held it out to her. When she didn't take it, he set it down on the milk crate. When you're ready, call that number. Someone will come get you. I'm not going to call. Yes, you will. He started walking back to his car, then paused. Oh, and Clara, your mother's medication. The pharmacy called this morning. They won't fill the prescription anymore because your credit card was declined. You're about 12 hours away from her being in serious pain. Her heart stopped. How do you... I told you, I know everything. He opened the car door. 24 hours, Clara. After that, the offer expires, and so does your mother's chance at survival. He got in the car and drove away, leaving her standing in the alley with a business card in her hand and the terrible, crushing weight of an impossible choice settling on her shoulders. She looked down at the card. Heavy stock. Embossed lettering, just a phone number, no name. Clara crumpled it in her fist and threw it in the dumpster. Then she went inside, finished her shift, and tried to pretend the conversation had never happened. But that night, when her mother woke up crying from pain and Clara had to tell her they were out of medication, when she watched her mother bite down on a towel to keep from screaming, when she held her and felt how fragile she'd become. That night, Clara dug the business card out of the dumpster. She didn't call, not yet, but she kept the card. Akit. The next 36 hours were the worst of Clara's life. Her mother's pain got worse. The over-the-counter medication wasn't even touching it anymore. Clara called every pharmacy in a 20-mile radius, begging them to spot her the prescription, promising she'd pay as soon as she got her next check. They all said no. She picked up an extra shift at the grocery store, stacking cans until her shoulders ached and her hands were cramped into claws. She made $83. The medication cost $300. She tried calling the hospital, the insurance company, even the pharmaceutical company directly. She was transferred 17 times, put on hold for hours, and ultimately told the same thing. Without payment, there was nothing they could do. On the second night, her mother stopped crying. That was somehow worse. She just lay there, staring at the ceiling, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps, too exhausted even for tears. Clara sat beside her bed and held her hand and hated herself. The business card was in her pocket. It had been in her pocket for 2 days. She'd pulled it out 100 times, stared at the number, put it away again. She pulled it out now. Her mother's eyes were closed, but Clara knew she wasn't asleep. You couldn't sleep through that kind of pain. Mom? She whispered. I need to tell you something. No response, just that terrible, ragged breathing. There's a man. He said he could help. He said he could get you into a better hospital, get you the treatment you need. He said he could make everything okay. Her mother's eyes opened. There was fear in them now, cut through the pain. What does he want? Clara couldn't say it, couldn't put words to the sick, twisted transaction Victor had proposed. It doesn't matter. Clara! It doesn't matter, she repeated more firmly. All that matters is you getting better. No. Her mother tried to sit up, failed. No, baby. Whatever he wants, it's not worth it. I'm dying anyway. Don't throw your life away for a few more months of mine. You're not dying, Clara's voice cracked. You're not. I won't let you. Sometimes we don't get a choice. I do. I have a choice, and I choose you. She pulled out her phone before she could change her mind, dialed the number on the card. It rang once. Clara Bennett. The voice on the other end was smooth, professional, female. Not Victor. We've been expecting your call. A car will be at your location in 15 minutes. Pack anything you want to bring with you. Someone will be sent to care for your mother immediately. Wait, I haven't even... Mr. Orlov was very clear about what would happen when you called. Do you want to proceed or not? Clara looked at her mother, who was shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. Yes, Clara whispered. I want to proceed. Excellent. 15 minutes. The line went dead. Clara stood up, her legs shaking. She grabbed her backpack and started throwing things into it. Clothes, toothbrush, the photograph of her and her mother from before the cancer when they'd both been smiling. Her mother was crying harder now, trying to speak through the pain and the tears. "Don't do this. Please, baby, don't do this for me." "I love you," Clara said, and kissed her forehead. "I'll be okay. I promise." She didn't believe it, but she said it anyway, because what else was there to say? The car arrived exactly 15 minutes later. Black, expensive, the same one from the alley. A driver got out and opened the door for her, his face completely neutral. "Miss Bennett?" She looked back at the apartment building, at the window where her mother was lying. She couldn't see her from here, but she felt her anyway, felt the weight of this choice like a stone in her chest. Then she got in the car. The door closed. The driver got in. They pulled away from the curb, and Clara watched her entire life disappear in the rearview mirror. "Where are we going?" she asked. The driver didn't answer. They drove for 40 minutes, leaving behind the part of the city Clara knew, entering neighborhoods where the streets were clean and the buildings were tall and made of glass. They pulled up to a high-rise that looked like it cost more than a small country. The driver opened her door. "Top floor. You're expected." Clara got out on legs that felt like water. The lobby was all marble and chrome, so pristine she was afraid to walk on it with her cheap sneakers. A woman in an immaculate suit was waiting by the elevator. "Miss Bennett, this way." They rode the elevator in silence. It was the kind of elevator that didn't feel like it was moving, just smoothly transported you to another dimension. When the doors opened, Clara stepped out into, not a hallway, an apartment, or penthouse maybe. She didn't know the difference. All she knew was that the entire floor was one massive open space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The furniture looked like art. The art looked like it belonged in a museum. And standing by the windows, backlit by the city lights, was Victor. He turned when he heard the elevator, smiled. "Welcome home, Clara." She wanted to throw up. Instead, she dropped her backpack and faced him, fists clenched at her sides. "My mother. You said someone would take care of her. Already done. By now she's been transported to Mercy Presbyterian, best oncology unit in the state. Dr. Sarah Chen is examining her as we speak. She's the leading researcher in experimental lung cancer treatments. Your mother will have round-the-clock care, the most advanced medication available, and a private room with a view." He said it so casually, like he'd just ordered takeout instead of arranging something that should have been impossible. How money opens doors, Clara. You'll learn that quickly. She swallowed hard, tried to steady herself. "What happens now?" "Now?" Victor walked toward her slowly, hands in his pockets, completely relaxed. "Now you rest. You've had a difficult few days. There's a bedroom prepared for you. Everything you need is there. We'll talk more tomorrow." "I don't want to rest. I want to know what you expect from me." He stopped a few feet away, studying her with those storm-gray eyes. "What I expect is for you to understand something. You're not a prisoner here, Clara. You made a choice. You can leave any time you want." "Bullshit. It's true. But if you leave, the deal is void. Your mother goes back to that apartment, back to dying in pain. The debt collectors come back. Everything returns to exactly how it was. So I am a prisoner. No, you're someone who understands the terms of an agreement. An agreement you forced on me. I didn't force anything. I gave you a choice. A hard choice, maybe, but still a choice." Clara laughed bitterly. "You call that a choice? Let your mother die or sell yourself to me. I call it an opportunity." He moved closer, and she resisted the urge to back away. "You were drowning, Clara. Working yourself to death for nothing. I threw you a rope. You took it. That's all this is. You're delusional if you think this is anything but coercion." "Perhaps." He reached out and touched her face, his fingers cool against her skin. She flinched, but didn't pull away. "But you're here, and your mother is alive. And for the first time in years, you don't have to be afraid of tomorrow." She wanted to hit him, wanted to scream, wanted to run. But he was right, about all of it. She was here. Her mother was getting help, and as much as she hated it, as much as it made her sick to admit it, this was still better than watching her mother die. "I hate you," she whispered. Victor smiled. "Not yet. But you will. Before you love me." "I will never love you." "We'll see." He stepped back, giving her space again. The bedroom is through there. Second door on the left. You'll find clothes in your size, toiletries, whatever you need. Tomorrow, we'll establish a routine. For now, just rest. What about you? The question came out before she could stop it. Where do you sleep? Concerned for my comfort? How thoughtful. I just want to know if I need to lock my door. His expression shifted. For just a moment, something dark flickered across his face. I'm a lot of things, Clara, but I'm not a rapist. When I take you to bed, and I will, eventually, you'll beg me for it first. Her face burned. That's never going to happen. Famous last words. He turned away, heading toward another part of the massive apartment. Good night, Clara. Sleep well. She stood there for a long time after he left, staring at the city lights and trying to understand what she'd just done. Then she found the bedroom. It was bigger than her entire apartment had been. The bed was enormous, covered in what felt like actual silk. There was a bathroom attached with a tub that could fit 3 people. The closet was full of clothes, all in her size, all more expensive than anything she'd ever owned. Clara sat on the edge of the bed and cried. Not for herself, for her mother, for the relief of knowing she'd be okay, for the guilt of feeling relieved, for everything she'd lost and everything she'd gained and the terrible, confusing mess of it all. Eventually, the tears stopped. She took a shower in the enormous bathroom, using soap that smelled like lavender and cost more than her hourly wage. She put on pajamas that felt like clouds. She climbed into the massive bed and stared at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come for a long time. When it finally did, she dreamed of drowning, and someone pulling her out of the water, and not being sure if she'd been saved or captured. Clara woke to sunlight pouring through windows she didn't recognize, and a moment of pure panic before memory caught up with her body. Victor's apartment, Victor's bed, Victor's deal. She sat up too fast, her head spinning. The clock on the nightstand said 10:47 a.m. She never slept past 6. Even on her days off, her body woke her up automatically, trained by years of double shifts and her mother's early morning coughing fits. Her mother. Clara grabbed her phone from the nightstand, her hands shaking. 3 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize. Her heart dropped into her stomach as she called it back. Mercy Presbyterian Hospital, Oncology Unit. This is Nurse Davis. My mother, Eleanor Bennett. She was admitted last night. I need to know if she's... Are you Clara? The nurse's voice was warm, professional. Your mother's been asking for you. She's stable. Dr. Chen finished her initial examination around 7 this morning. Would you like to speak with her? My mother? Or the doctor? Your mother. Dr. Chen is in surgery, but she left detailed notes for you. There was a rustling sound, then her mother's voice, weak but clearer than it had been in weeks. Clara, baby, where are you? The relief nearly knocked her flat. Mom, are you okay? Are they treating you well? I'm in a palace, apparently. Her mother's laugh turned into a cough, but it was better, less rattling. They gave me something for the pain, real medication, not that garbage we were using. I can breathe, Clara. I haven't been able to breathe properly in months. Clara's eyes burned. Good. That's good. Where are you? What did you do? The doctors won't tell me anything except that my treatment's been fully covered by some private benefactor. I'm safe. That's all that matters. Clara, I have to go, Mom. I'll visit soon, okay? I promise. She hung up before her mother could ask more questions she couldn't answer. Then she sat there on the expensive bed in the expensive apartment and tried to figure out what the hell she was supposed to do now. A knock on the door made her jump. Miss Bennett? A woman's voice, not Victor's. May I come in? Sure. The door opened and a woman in her 50s entered, carrying a tray. She had kind eyes and the efficient manner of someone who'd been doing this job for a long time. I'm Margaret. I handle the household staff. Mister, Orlov asked me to bring you breakfast and show you around once you're ready. Household staff. Of course there was household staff. Margaret set the tray on the small table by the window. Coffee, fresh fruit, eggs that looked like they'd been prepared by an actual chef. Clara's stomach growled traitorously. I can come back if you need more time, Margaret said, heading for the door. Wait, Clara stood up, suddenly aware she was wearing pajamas that probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget used to. Where is he, Victor? Mr. Orlov left for a meeting at 6 this morning. He'll return this evening. So I'm just supposed to what? Stay here all day? Margaret's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes softened slightly. You're not a prisoner, Miss Bennett. You can go anywhere you'd like. There's a car and driver available if you need transportation. Mr. Orlov just asked that I make sure you're comfortable and answer any questions you might have. I have a lot of questions. I imagine you do. Eat first. Everything's easier on a full stomach. She left before Clara could respond. Clara stared at the breakfast tray, her stomach at war with her pride. She hadn't eaten anything except that stale bagel in 2 days. The coffee smelled incredible. The eggs were still steaming. She ate. She hated herself a little for how good it tasted, but she ate. Afterward, she showered again, taking her time under water pressure that actually worked, using shampoo that didn't come from a dollar store. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly. Jeans that actually fit her waist, a soft sweater that didn't have holes in it, shoes that didn't flap when she walked. It felt like putting on someone else's life. Margaret was waiting in the main living area when Clara emerged. Better? I guess. Mr. Orlov wanted me to give you this. She held out a sleek black credit card. For anything you need. No limit. Clara stared at it like it might bite her. I don't want his money. It's not money. It's access. There's a difference. Is there? Margaret's expression was sympathetic but firm. Miss Bennett, I've worked for Mr. Orlov for 12 years. I've seen a lot of people come through here. Some of them fought every step of the way, made themselves miserable trying to prove a point. Others accepted the situation and made the best of it. You can't change what's already happened. You can only decide how you're going to live with it. That's easy for you to say. You get paid to be here. So do you, in a way. The difference is what you're trading. Margaret set the card down on the counter. Take it or don't. But if you need anything, clothes, books, food that isn't on the meal plan, whatever, it's there. Mr. Orlov doesn't do things halfway. She left Clara alone again. Clara picked up the credit card, turned it over. Her name was on it. Clara Bennett, embossed in silver letters like she was someone who mattered. She put it in her pocket, hating that she was already learning how to compromise. The apartment was enormous. Clara spent the next hour exploring it, each room more excessive than the last. A library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, a gym that looked like something from a magazine, a kitchen that could serve a restaurant. Windows everywhere, showing off a view of the city she'd never seen from this angle. And everywhere, subtle reminders that this wasn't her space. Men's clothes in one of the closets, books in Russian on the shelves, a photo on the desk in what was clearly Victor's office. Him with 2 other men, all of them in suits, all of them looking dangerous. She was standing in his office, staring at that photo, when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Clara Bennett? A man's voice, rough and unfriendly. You owe us money. Her blood went cold. Who is this? Capital Credit Services. You're 3 months behind on your payments. We've been trying to reach you. That debt was supposed to be cleared. Someone was supposed to handle it. Nobody's handled anything. You owe us $6,432. We need payment in full by the end of the week or we're moving to collections. There's a mistake. I was told. I don't care what you were told, lady. I care about what you owe. End of the week. He hung up. Clara stood there, her heart pounding. Victor had promised. He'd said he would erase her debts. Had he lied? Was this whole thing a setup? She was still standing there, trying to breathe through the panic when the elevator dinged. Victor stepped out, earlier than Margaret had said he'd be back. He was on his phone, speaking in rapid Russian, and didn't notice Clara at first. When he did, he ended the call mid-sentence. You're in my office. You lied to me. Clara's voice shook with fury. You said you'd clear my debts. I just got a call from a collections agency. They want $6,000 by Friday. Victor's expression didn't change. He walked to his desk, pressed a button on his phone. Dmitri, there's a collections agency calling Clara's number, Capital Credit Services. Find out why her accounts weren't closed and handle it. Now. He hung up, looked at Clara. It'll be resolved within the hour. That's it? That's all you're going to say? What do you want me to say? Someone didn't do their job. I'm fixing it. You could apologize. For what? I didn't make the mistake. For the fucking heart attack you just gave me. Victor tilted his head, studying her. Then, to her complete shock, he smiled. You're angry. Of course I'm angry. Good. I was worried you'd be docile, boring. This isn't funny. I never said it was. He moved around his desk, getting closer. But you're right. I should have verified everything was handled correctly. That's on me. I apologize. Clara blinked. She hadn't actually expected him to say it. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. Now, did Margaret give you the card? She pulled it from her pocket. Yeah, I don't want it. Too bad. Keep it anyway. I'm serious. I don't need your money. You don't need it, but you might want it. He took off his suit jacket, draping it over his chair. Underneath, his shirt was perfectly tailored, showing off the kind of build that came from actual work, not just a gym. Have you eaten? Margaret brought breakfast. I meant lunch. It's almost 1. Clara hadn't even noticed. Time felt different here, untethered from the constant grind of shifts and obligations. I'm not hungry. Liar. Victor picked up his phone again. I'm ordering food. What do you like? I don't... Clara, what do you like to eat? She stared at him, trying to understand this version of Victor. Not the cold, threatening man from the alley, not the calculating predator who'd backed her into a corner, just someone asking what she wanted for lunch. Thai food, she said finally. I used to love this place near my old apartment, but I haven't been able to afford it in like 2 years. Thai. Got it. He made a call, ordered in English this time. Way too much food for 2 people. Then he looked at her again. You've been exploring. Is that allowed? This is your home now. You can go anywhere you want. Except leave. You can leave any time, I told you that. Right. As long as I'm okay with my mother dying and my life going back to shit. Victor's jaw tightened. You're determined to see yourself as a victim. I am a victim. You blackmailed me. I gave you options. You chose this one. Some choice. Better than no choice at all. He loosened his tie, and Clara caught herself watching the movement of his hands. She looked away quickly. I'm not the villain you want me to be, Clara. You're a mafia boss who bought me like I'm some kind of object. You're exactly the villain. Mafia? He laughed, low and dark. You've been watching too many movies. So you're not a criminal? I didn't say that. He sat on the edge of his desk, completely relaxed. I run businesses. Some of them are legal. Some of them exist in gray areas. Some of them would get me arrested if the authorities had evidence, which they don't. But I'm not some cartoon mob boss, Clara. I'm a businessman who operates in markets most people are too afraid to enter. That's a fancy way of saying criminal. If it helps you sleep at night to think of me that way, go ahead. The food arrived 20 minutes later. Victor had it set up on the dining table, an actual dining table that could seat 12. Clara sat down across from him, and they ate in silence for a while. The food was incredible, better than she remembered. She tried not to show how much she was enjoying it, but Victor noticed anyway. When's the last time you had a meal you actually wanted? He asked. What? Not food you could afford, not leftovers from work. A meal you chose because you wanted it. Clara put down her fork. Why do you care? I'm curious about you. Why? Because you're here. Because you interest me. Because most people in your situation would be trying to seduce me by now, playing the game, and you're sitting there looking like you want to stab me with your chopsticks. I do want to stab you with my chopsticks. He grinned. See? Interesting. Despite herself, Clara felt her mouth twitch. She fought the smile down. You're insane. So I've been told. He pushed one of the containers toward her. Eat more. You're too thin. I'm not too thin. You're malnourished. I can see your collarbones. Maybe I like my collarbones. Maybe I like watching you eat something other than diner food and stolen bagels. Clara flushed. You really do know everything, don't you? I told you I did. You didn't believe me. This is creepy. You know that, right? The stalking thing is incredibly creepy. I prefer thorough. He stood up, grabbing his wine glass. I don't make investments without research. I'm not an investment. I'm a person. You can be both. She wanted to throw something at him. Instead, she ate more pad thai and tried to figure out why she wasn't more terrified. She should be terrified. This man had upended her entire life, trapped her in a gilded cage, and was sitting here talking about her like she was a stock portfolio. But she wasn't scared. She was angry, confused, resentful, but not scared. Maybe that was worse. What happens now? She asked. You got what you wanted. I'm here. So what's the plan? Do I just sit in this apartment all day waiting for you to come home? If you want, or you can do whatever you'd like. Read, exercise, go shopping, visit your mother. And you? What do you do? Work? What kind of work? The kind that pays for penthouses and medical treatments. That's not an answer. Victor studied her over his wine glass. You really want to know? Would I be asking if I didn't? Most people in your position would prefer plausible deniability. I'm not most people. No, he said softly. You're really not. He set down his glass and leaned back in his chair. I have interests in shipping, real estate, private security, and financial consulting. The shipping moves goods that don't always have proper documentation. The real estate launders money. The security provides protection for people who can't go to the police. The financial consulting helps rich people hide their assets from governments and ex-wives. Clara's appetite disappeared. You're serious? You asked, and you just tell people this? I just told you, because you asked, and because lying to you seems pointless. You're already here. What are you going to do? Report me? I could. You could. You won't. He said it with such certainty that it made her furious. You don't know what I'll do? Yes, I do. Because reporting me means your mother loses her treatment, means you lose this apartment, the money, the safety. You're a lot of things, Clara, but you're not stupid. So I'm complicit now. Great. That makes me feel so much better. You were always complicit. The moment you got in that car, you made your choice. Clara stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I need air. There's a balcony. Not here. Outside, real air. Victor's expression shifted to something harder. Where? I don't know. Anywhere. Does it matter? It matters if you're planning to run. I thought I could leave any time I wanted. You can, but if you do, you know what happens. Right, my mother dies. You've made that very clear. She grabbed her jacket, her new jacket that fit properly and didn't have a broken zipper. I'm going for a walk. I'll be back. Is that allowed, or do I need permission? Take Alexei. Who? Your driver. He'll follow you, for safety. I don't need a babysitter. You do if you're walking around the city as someone connected to me. Victor pulled out his phone. There are people who would hurt you just to get to me. Alexei stays with you. This is ridiculous. This is reality. Welcome to it. 20 minutes later, Clara was walking down streets she'd never been able to afford to walk down before, with a massive Russian man in a black suit trailing 10 feet behind her. She walked for an hour, trying to clear her head, trying to figure out what her life was now. The neighborhoods up here were different, clean, safe. People walked their designer dogs and carried shopping bags from stores Clara had only seen in magazines. She stopped in front of a bookstore, a real one, not a chain, the kind with a cat sleeping in the window and handwritten recommendation cards on the shelves. She went inside. Alexei waited outside, his hands clasped in front of him, looking like exactly what he was. Clara wandered the aisles, running her fingers over spines, breathing in the smell of paper and ink. She'd forgotten what it was like to be in a bookstore, to look at books she might actually be able to buy instead of just borrowing from the library. She picked up 3 novels, then put them back, picked them up again. The credit card was in her pocket. She bought all 3 books, plus a 4th she'd been wanting to read for months. The total came to $63. The cashier didn't even blink when Clara handed over the black card. Outside, Alexei was exactly where she'd left him. You like books? He asked. His accent was thick, but his English was clear. Yeah. Good. Mr. Orlov likes smart people. Does he? He does. Alexei gestured to the car. Ready to go back? Clara looked at her bag of books, at the street, at the life she used to have, just a few miles south of here. Yeah, I'm ready. Victor was in the library when she got back, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when she entered. You came back. You sound surprised, cautiously optimistic. He noticed the bag. You bought books. I used your card. Hope that's okay. That's what it's for. He set down the tablet. What did you get? She showed him. He picked up one of them, a thriller she'd been wanting to read. This is good. I read it last year. You read thrillers? I read everything. Don't look so shocked. Claire sat down in one of the leather chairs. I don't know what to do with you. What do you mean? I want to hate you. It would be easier if I could just hate you, but you're... She struggled for words. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A monster, some violent sociopath who gets off on controlling people. I might still be that, Victor said quietly. You haven't seen all of me yet. Is that a threat? It's a warning. I'm not a good man, Clara. Don't make the mistake of thinking I am just because I buy you books and Thai food. Then what are you? He stood up, moving closer. Clara's breath caught as he stopped right in front of her chair. I'm someone who takes what he wants. I'm someone who's built an empire on violence and manipulation. I'm someone who's killed people who got in my way. He reached out, tilting her chin up so she had to look at him. But I'm also someone who keeps his promises. I told you I'd save your mother. I did. I told you I'd take care of you. I will. And I told you that when I take you to bed, you'll beg me for it. That's a promise, too. Clara's pulse was racing. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to be honest with you. His thumb brushed her lower lip, and she felt it everywhere. I want you, Clara. Not because you're convenient or because I can. Because you walked into that club and told Simone to fuck off with her complaints. Because you spit in my face when I offered you a way out. Because you're sitting here terrified and furious, and you still came back. I came back for my mother. Keep telling yourself that. He let her go, stepping back. Clara felt like she'd been holding her breath and could finally breathe again. I have work to do, Victor said, his voice back to business. Make yourself at home. Read your books. There's a phone by the door. Use it if you need anything. He left her there, her heart pounding, and her thoughts in chaos. That night, Clara lay in the enormous bed and stared at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the city 40 floors below. She could hear Victor moving around in another part of the apartment, water running, a door closing. She thought about her mother, safe in a hospital bed, breathing easier for the first time in months. She thought about the debt collectors who would never call again. She thought about Victor's hand on her face, his thumb on her lip, the promise in his eyes. And she hated that some part of her, some small and treacherous part, had wanted him to kiss her. 3 weeks passed in a strange blur of routine that shouldn't have felt like routine, but somehow did. Clara woke up every morning in that massive bed, still half expecting to find herself back on the couch in her old apartment. She'd shower in the bathroom that was bigger than her childhood bedroom, put on clothes that fit, eat breakfast that Margaret brought without being asked. Then she'd fill her days with things she'd forgotten people did when they weren't working themselves to death. Reading, walking, visiting her mother at the hospital. Her mother was getting better. Not miraculously, not overnight, but better. The color was coming back to her face. She could sit up without gasping. Dr. Chen talked about experimental treatments and clinical trials, and words like hopeful that Clara had stopped letting herself believe in months ago. And every evening, Victor came home. Sometimes early, sometimes late. Sometimes he'd eat dinner with her, asking about her day like they were a normal couple living a normal life. Sometimes he'd disappear into his office and she wouldn't see him until morning. But he was always there, a constant presence she couldn't ignore even when he wasn't in the same room. The tension between them grew like something alive. He never touched her, not since that moment in the library when his thumb had brushed her lip. He was careful, almost deliberately so, maintaining a distance that felt both respectful and calculated, like he was waiting for something. Clara told herself she was relieved, told herself the slight disappointment she felt was just her mind playing tricks on her. She was lying to herself and she knew it. It was a Thursday night when everything shifted. Clara was in the library, curled up in her favorite chair with one of the books she'd bought. when Victor came home earlier than usual. She heard him talking to someone in Russian, his voice sharp with an edge she hadn't heard before. Then a crash. Glass breaking. She was on her feet before she thought about it, moving toward the sound. Victor was in the living room, his phone on the floor in pieces, his hand bleeding. What happened? He looked up, and for the first time since she'd met him, Victor looked rattled. Not scared, she couldn't imagine him scared, but shaken, furious. Nothing. Go back to your book. Your hand is bleeding. It's fine. It's not fine. Clara moved closer despite every instinct telling her to back away. Let me see it. Clara. Let me see it. He held out his hand and she took it carefully, examining the cut. It wasn't deep, but glass was still embedded in his palm. She led him to the kitchen, sat him down at the counter, and grabbed the first aid kit Margaret had showed her weeks ago. You don't have to do this, Victor said quietly. I know. She pulled out the tweezers, sterilized them with alcohol. This is going to hurt. I've had worse. She worked carefully, pulling out 3 small pieces of glass. Victor didn't flinch, didn't make a sound, just watched her face while she concentrated on his hand. What happened? She asked again. Business problem. What kind of business problem makes you throw your phone? The kind where someone I trusted sold information to people who want me dead. Claire's hand stilled. What? It's handled, or it will be. He said it so casually, like he was talking about a scheduling conflict instead of someone trying to kill him. Someone wants you dead and you're just sitting here letting me play nurse? They always want me dead. This is not new. That's insane. You know that's insane, right? Victor smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who'd grown comfortable with violence. This is what I do, Clara. I told you I wasn't a good man. There's not being good, and then there's... She gestured helplessly. This, people trying to kill you, you throwing phones. I've never claimed to be stable. She finished cleaning the wound and wrapped his hand in gauze, her fingers trembling slightly. When she looked up, Victor was still watching her with that intense focus that made her feel like he could see straight through her. Why did you come out here, you see? He asked. I heard the crash. And? And I wanted to make sure you were okay. Why? Clara pulled her hands back. I don't know, instinct. You care about me. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He stood up, moving around the counter until he was close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the flecks of darker gray in his eyes. You've been here 3 weeks and you still can't decide if you hate me or not. I can decide just fine. Then why are you still here? Your mother's treatment is paid for years in advance. You could leave right now and she'd be fine. The deal was... Fuck the deal. His voice dropped lower, more dangerous. The deal was an excuse. For both of us. You're here because some part of you wants to be. You're delusional. Am I? He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. You look at me like you're trying to solve a puzzle. Like if you can just figure me out, you'll know what to do with yourself. Stop it. Stop what? Telling the truth? His other hand came up, framing her face. I've been patient, Clara. I've given you space. Let you adjust. But I'm running out of patience. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought he must be able to hear it. What do you want from me? Everything. He said it simply, like it was obvious. I want you to stop pretending you're here against your will. I want you to stop looking at me like I'm a bomb that might go off. I want you to admit that you feel this too. Feel what? Instead of answering, he kissed her. It wasn't gentle. Wasn't the kind of first kiss that came with romance and hesitation. It was claiming, possessive, the kind of kiss that said mine. Claire's brain screamed at her to push him away, to slap him, to do anything but kiss him back. She kissed him back. Her hands fisted in his shirt and she pulled him closer. Months of tension and fear, and something darker snapping like a wire pulled too tight. Victor made a sound low in his throat and backed her against the counter, his body pressing against hers, his hand sliding into her hair. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Clara wanted to die. That was a mistake, she said. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. We can't. I can't. You can. You did. He kissed her again, softer this time, but no less intense. Stop fighting this. You're a criminal. You've killed people. You bought me like I'm property, and you want me anyway. He pulled back just enough to look at her. Tell me I'm wrong. She couldn't. The words stuck in her throat. I hate you, she whispered instead. I know. He kissed her forehead, her cheek, the corner of her mouth. Hate me all you want. Just stop lying about the rest of it. Then he let her go and walked away, leaving her trembling against the kitchen counter, her lips still burning from his kiss. Clara didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed replaying the kiss over and over, hating herself for how much she'd wanted it, how much she still wanted it. When morning came, she avoided Victor, ate breakfast in her room, claimed she had a headache when Margaret asked if she wanted to join Mr. Orloff for lunch. She spent the day at the hospital with her mother, who was sitting up and complaining about the food, which meant she was definitely getting better. You look tired, her mother said, studying Clara's face. Are you sleeping? I'm fine. You're lying. You've always been a terrible liar. Her mother reached for Clara's hand. What's going on? And don't tell me nothing. I know you too well. Clara wanted to tell her everything, wanted to explain about Victor and the kiss and the terrible confusion of wanting someone she should hate. But how could she explain any of it without making her mother feel guilty for being the reason Clara was there in the first place? It's complicated, she said finally. The man who's paying for all this, he's not hurting you, is he? No, he's not. But I don't know what he wants or what I want, or how to be okay with any of this. Her mother squeezed her hand. Baby, listen to me. You've spent your whole life taking care of everyone else. Your father, before he left, me, when I got sick. You've never let yourself want anything just because you wanted it. Maybe it's time you did. Mom, I'm serious. Whatever's happening, whoever this man is, if he makes you feel something, that's not wrong. You're allowed to feel things. You're allowed to want things, even if they're complicated. Clara's eyes burned. What if I'm making a huge mistake? Then you make a mistake. That's called being human. Her mother smiled, and it was the most like her old self she'd looked in months. Just promise me you'll be careful, and that you'll keep visiting me, because hospital food is disgusting and you're the only person who smuggles me decent coffee. Clara laughed despite herself. I promise. When she got back to the apartment that evening, Victor was waiting. He stood up from the couch when she walked in, and for a moment they just looked at each other. We need to talk, he said. I know. He gestured to the couch. Clara sat, and he sat beside her but not touching, maintaining that careful distance again. Last night was a mistake, Clara interrupted. You were upset. I was confused, and we both did something we shouldn't have. That's not what I was going to say. Then what were you going to say? Victor turned to face her fully. I was going to say that I'm not sorry, and I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen or that it won't happen again. Because it will, Clara. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. You're very sure of yourself. I'm sure of this. He moved closer, and she could feel the heat of him, even though they weren't touching. I'm sure that you think about me. I'm sure that you wanted that kiss as much as I did. And I'm sure that you're terrified because nothing about this is safe or sensible or any of the things you think you should want. Stop telling me what I think. Then tell me I'm wrong. Because Clara opened her mouth, closed it, looked away. That's what I thought, Victor said quietly. I'm not going to pressure you. When you're ready, you'll come to me. But stop pretending you don't feel this. And if I never come to you, then you never do. He stood up. But we both know that's not going to happen. He left her alone with that, and Clara sat there trying to figure out when she'd lost control of her own life, or if she'd ever had it to begin with. The next few days were tense. They circled each other like fighters in a ring, careful and watchful. Victor went back to his usual routine of work and late nights. Claire went back to her books and hospital visits, but the air between them was charged with something that hadn't been there before. On Sunday night, Clara couldn't sleep. She'd tried everything, reading, warm milk that Margaret had brought her, counting backwards from 1,000. Nothing worked. Her mind kept circling back to Victor, to that kiss, to the way her body had responded before her brain could catch up. She got out of bed and wandered into the living room in her pajamas. The city lights made the room glow even without lamps. She stood by the windows, looking out at the world she used to be part of and now just observed from above. Can't sleep? She jumped. Victor was sitting in one of the chairs in the corner, barely visible in the darkness. He had a glass of something amber in his hand. You scared me. Sorry, I thought you saw me. What are you doing sitting in the dark? Thinking. He took a sip of his drink. You? Same. Want to talk about it? Clara should have said no. Should have gone back to her room and pretended this conversation wasn't happening. Instead, she sat down in the chair across from him. Tell me something true, she said. Such as? Anything. Something real. Not the scary boss version or the businessman version. Just something true about you. Victor was quiet for a long moment. I was 7 the first time I saw someone die. My father's business partner. They had a disagreement about money. My father shot him in our kitchen while my mother was making dinner. Claire's breath caught. That's horrible. It was instructive. I learned that loyalty is temporary and money is the only thing people really respect. I learned that weakness gets you killed. And I learned that if you want to survive in this world, you need to be willing to do things other people won't. Is that why you do what you do? Because of your father? Partly. Mostly I do it because I'm good at it. He looked at her. Your turn. Tell me something true. I'm terrified all the time, Clara said quietly. I'm terrified of you, of this life, of the fact that I'm starting to get used to it. I'm terrified that my mother will die anyway despite all this. And I'm terrified that you're right about me. About what? About wanting this. Wanting you. I don't want to want you. It feels like betraying myself. Why? Because you're everything I should hate. You're violent and manipulative, and you built your life on hurting people. True. But you saved my mother. You saved me. And when I'm with you, I feel less alone than I have in years, and I don't know what to do with that. Victor set down his glass and moved to kneel in front of her chair. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to make sense of it or justify it. You just have to decide if you want to give in to it or keep fighting. What if I'm not ready to decide? Then I wait. He took her hand, careful of the bandage still wrapped around his palm. I'm a patient man when I want to be. Everyone wants you dead, you throw phones when you're angry, and you just told me you learned about violence from watching your father commit murder. You're not exactly screaming stable relationship material. He laughed, and it was genuine. No, I suppose I'm not. So why me? You could have anyone. Why go through all this trouble? Because you told Simone her coffee complaints were bullshit. Because you looked me in the eye and told me to fuck off. Because you're the first person in 10 years who treats me like a person instead of a weapon or a wallet. He squeezed her hand. And because when I look at you, I see someone who hasn't been broken by the world yet. I want to be there when you realize you're stronger than you think you are. Clara's throat was tight. You're making this very hard. Good. She pulled her hand back. I need time. You have it. And space. You have that too. And you need to stop looking at me like that. Like what? Like you already know how this ends. Victor smiled, slow and dangerous. But I do know how it ends, Clara. You're just not ready to admit it yet. He stood up and left her there, and Clara sat in the dark trying to convince herself he was wrong. 3 days later, she watched him kill someone. She hadn't meant to see it. She'd been coming back from the hospital when Alexei drove her to a warehouse instead of the apartment. He'd gotten a call, spoken rapidly in Russian, and changed course without explanation. Where are we going? Claire had asked. Mr. Orlov needs you to wait somewhere safe, just for an hour. Safe from what? Alexei hadn't answered. The warehouse was on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that looked abandoned but clearly wasn't. Alexei had brought her inside, led her to a second-floor office with a window overlooking the main floor, and told her to stay put. She should have listened. Instead, curiosity and fear had made her look out the window, made her watch as Victor walked in with 2 other men, made her see the person tied to a chair in the center of the floor, bloodied and begging. She should have looked away, but she watched as Victor stood in front of the man, listened to him plead, watched him shake his head once, watched him pull out a gun and shoot the man in the head without hesitation or remorse. Clara stumbled backward from the window, her hand over her mouth, trying not to throw up. This was who Victor was. This was what he did. She'd known it intellectually, but knowing something and seeing it were different things entirely. The door to the office opened. Victor walked in and she saw blood spatter on his shirt cuff. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said quietly. "What did you do?" "What I had to do. That man sold out my location to a rival organization. 4 of my people died because of him." "So you killed him?" "Yes." Clara wrapped her arms around herself. You shot him like it was nothing." "It wasn't nothing. It was necessary." Victor moved closer, but she backed away. "Clara, don't come near me. You knew what I was." "Knowing and seeing are different." Her voice cracked. "I watched you kill someone. I watched you end someone's life like it didn't even matter." "His life stopped mattering when he killed 4 of mine." Victor's voice was still calm, still controlled. "This is what my world looks like. I told you I wasn't a good man. You told me. You didn't show me." She felt tears on her face and angrily wiped them away. "How am I supposed to? How can I?" "You can leave. Right now. I'll have Alexei take you home. Your mother's treatment continues, the deal stands, but you never have to see me again." "That's it? That's your solution? You want me to apologize for protecting my people? For dealing with a traitor? I won't. This is who I am, Clara. Take it or leave it." She stared at him, this man who'd saved her mother and kissed her like she mattered and just put a bullet in someone's brain without flinching. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered. "Then don't." He turned toward the door. "Alexei will take you wherever you want to go." He left her there, and Clara stood in that office trying to figure out who she was. The girl who ran from violence, or the woman who'd already chosen to stay in spite of it? She thought about her mother's face when she talked about second chances, about Victor's hand in hers in the dark, about the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his world. She thought about the dead man on the warehouse floor and what it meant that she was even considering staying. When Alexei came to get her, she took a deep breath and made her choice. "Take me back to the apartment," she said. "You're sure?" "No, but take me anyway." Victor was already there when she arrived. He was in his room. She could hear the shower running. Clara stood outside his door for 5 minutes, her hand raised to knock, lowering it, raising it again. Finally, she knocked. The water shut off. A moment later, Victor appeared in the doorway, a towel wrapped around his waist, his hair dripping. "Clara." "I'm still here," she said. "I'm angry and I'm scared and I don't know if this makes me a terrible person, but I'm still here." Something shifted in his expression. "Why?" "Because leaving would be easier, and I'm tired of only doing things because they're easier." He reached for her, and this time she didn't pull away. His hands framed her face, and he kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. "You're sure?" he asked against her mouth. "No, but kiss me anyway." So he did. Clara woke up in Victor's bed. Not the guest room she'd been sleeping in for weeks. His bed, in his room, with his arm heavy across her waist, and the morning light cutting through the windows at an angle that told her it was later than she usually slept. She lay there for a moment, not moving, trying to process what had happened. The kiss that had turned into more kisses. His hands in her hair, her hands pulling at his towel. The way he'd asked, "Are you sure?" 3 separate times. And she'd said yes every time, even though she wasn't sure of anything except that she wanted him more than she'd wanted anything in her life. The sex had been nothing like she'd expected. Not gentle, not romantic, but raw and desperate and real. He'd marked her, and she'd marked him back, her nails on his shoulders, his teeth on her neck. And afterward, he'd held her like she might disappear if he let go. Now, in the cold light of morning, Clara didn't know what to feel. Victor stirred behind her, his arm tightening. "You're thinking too loud." "I didn't know that was possible." "With you, everything's loud." He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "Regrets?" "I don't know yet." "Fair enough." He sat up, the sheet falling to his waist, and Clara tried not to stare at the scars on his chest. Bullet wounds, knife marks, the evidence of a violent life worn on his skin. I need to make some calls. Stay here. I should get up. Stay. His hand on her hip, gentle but firm. Please. She stayed. Victor got dressed in clothes that probably cost more than a month of her old rent, made 3 phone calls in Russian while pacing the room, and then sat back down on the edge of the bed. I have to leave town for a few days, he said. Clara's stomach dropped. Why? The situation with the traitor. I need to handle the fallout personally. He touched her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. You'll be safe here. Alexei and the others will stay with you. I don't need bodyguards. Yes, you do, especially now. His expression went hard. The people who bought that information, they know about you. They'll use you to get to me if they can. That's comforting. It's reality. I'm not going to lie to you about the danger. Clara sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. When do you leave? 2 hours. And you're just telling me now? I'm telling you as soon as I know. He stood up, ran a hand through his hair. Clara, last night changed everything. I know. Did it? She looked at him, this man who'd killed someone yesterday and made love to her last night, who was preparing to leave her alone in a gilded cage while he dealt with enemies who wanted him dead. Yeah, she said quietly. It did. He kissed her, hard and quick, and then he was gone. Clara spent the rest of the morning in a daze. She showered, washing away the smell of him even though part of her wanted to keep it. Got dressed in her own clothes, the ones she'd bought with his credit card, which felt like a weird metaphor she didn't want to examine. Margaret found her in the kitchen, staring at coffee she'd forgotten to drink. Mr. Orlov left instructions for your safety while he's away, Margaret said carefully. You're not to leave the building without Alexei and at least 2 other guards. That's ridiculous. But that's protocol. Margaret's expression softened. He's worried about you. He doesn't usually worry about people. Lucky me. Miss Bennett, Clara, I've worked for Mr. Orlov for 12 years. I've seen him with a lot of women. He's never looked at any of them the way he looks at you. I don't know if that's supposed to make me feel better or worse. Neither. It's just the truth. Margaret picked up Clara's untouched coffee and poured it down the sink, started making a fresh cup. He's not an easy man to care about, but he's loyal to the people he claims as his, and he's claimed you. I'm not his property. No. But you're his responsibility now. And for someone like Victor Orlov, responsibility is the closest thing to love he knows how to offer. Clara took the fresh coffee Margaret handed her. Did he tell you to say that? He told me to make sure you eat and don't do anything stupid. The rest is my own observation. Margaret pulled out ingredients for breakfast. Now, do you want eggs or pancakes? The next 3 days were the longest of Clara's life. She called her mother twice a day. Visited once with Alexei and 2 men whose names she didn't know, shadowing her every move. Her mother noticed immediately. Who are those men? Security. For a hospital visit? It's complicated, Mom. Her mother looked at the guards, then back at Clara. Baby, what have you gotten yourself into? Something I'm not sure I can get out of, but I'm okay. I promise. You look different. Different how? Like you've made a decision about something. I can't tell if it's a good decision or a bad one. Clara thought about Victor's hands on her skin, his voice saying, "You're mine now," like it was both a threat and a promise. Me either, she admitted. At night, alone in the apartment that felt too big without Victor in it, Clara tried not to think about where he was or what he was doing, tried not to imagine him getting hurt, getting killed, disappearing from her life as suddenly as he'd entered it. He called her once each night, always late, his voice rough with exhaustion. You okay? He'd ask. I'm fine. You? Still breathing. That's not reassuring. It's honest. A pause. Sounds in the background she couldn't identify. I'll be back soon. How soon? Soon. He never said he missed her. Never said anything soft or sentimental. But he called. Every night, like he needed to hear her voice to prove she was still there. On the 4th morning, Clara woke to the sound of the elevator. She was out of bed and running before she thought about it, her heart in her throat, half convinced something had happened and they were coming to tell her Victor was dead. Instead, she found him in the living room, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His suit was rumpled, his jaw shadowed with stubble, his knuckles bruised and split. "You're back," she said stupidly. "I'm back." He looked at her, and something in his expression made her chest tight. "Come here." She went. He pulled her into his arms and held her so tightly she could barely breathe, his face buried in her hair. "Are you okay?" she asked against his chest. "Now I am." They stood like that for a long time, neither of them speaking, until Victor finally loosened his grip enough to look at her. "It's handled. The people who bought the information are no longer a problem." Clara didn't ask what that meant. She was learning not to ask questions she didn't want the answers to. "Your hands are a mess." "I've had worse. Let me clean them up." "Clara, please." He let her lead him to the bathroom, let her carefully clean the cuts on his knuckles, apply antiseptic that must have stung, but he didn't flinch. When she was done, he caught her hand and pulled her into his lap. "I missed you," he said quietly. "You never said that on the phone." "I don't like admitting weakness. Missing someone isn't weakness. It is in my world." He touched her face, studying her like he was memorizing her features. "But I missed you anyway. The whole time I was gone, all I could think about was getting back here. Getting back to you." Claire's throat was tight. "I missed you too. I hated that I missed you, but I did." "Why did you hate it?" "Because it means I'm in too deep, because I'm starting to need you, and that scares the hell out of me." Victor kissed her, slow and thorough. "Good. Be scared. I'm terrified." "Of what?" "Of how much I want to keep you, of what I'd do if someone tried to take you from me." His hand slid into her hair. "I've built my entire life on control, Clara, and you make me feel completely out of control. Is that why you left without really saying goodbye?" "I left because staying would have been selfish. I left to keep you safe. And now? Now I'm back, and I'm selfish, and I don't want to let you out of my sight for the next week." He carried her to bed, and they didn't leave his room for the rest of the day. The next few weeks fell into a new rhythm. Victor still worked, still disappeared for meetings and phone calls and business that Clara didn't ask about. But he came home to her, ate dinner with her, fell asleep beside her, and slowly, carefully, they built something that looked almost like a normal relationship, if you didn't look too closely at the foundation it was built on. Claire's mother was improving steadily. Dr. Chen was cautiously optimistic about a new treatment protocol. The cancer wasn't gone, but it was shrinking. Her mother had gained weight, had color in her cheeks, had started talking about the future in a way she hadn't in over a year. "I want to meet him," she said one afternoon during Clara's visit. "Meet who?" "Don't play dumb. The man who's paying for all this. The man who's put that look on your face." "What look?" "The one that says you're sleeping with him and feeling guilty about enjoying it." Clara's face burned. "Mom, I'm dying, not dead. I can still read my daughter's face." Her mother reached for her hand. "Bring him to meet me. I want to know who has my baby girl so twisted up inside." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not? Is he married? A serial killer? A politician?" It's complicated. Everything worth having is complicated." Her mother squeezed her hand. "I'm serious, Clara. I want to meet him. If you care about him enough to look like that when you talk about him, I want to know who he is." Clara brought it up to Victor that night over dinner. "My mother wants to meet you." He looked up from his plate. "Does she?" "She's insistent. I think she's worried you're some kind of monster taking advantage of me." "I am taking advantage of you." "Victor." "What?" "It's true. I blackmailed you into living with me. That's pretty much the definition of taking advantage. Can you be serious for 5 seconds?" He set down his fork. "Why does she want to meet me?" "Because she's my mother and she wants to know who I'm—" Clara stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. "She wants to know who's important to me." "And I'm important to you?" "You know you are." Victor was quiet for a moment. "I don't do family meetings, Clara. I don't do the meet the parents thing. I've never—" He stopped, looking uncomfortable. I'm not good at that. You're good at killing people and running criminal enterprises. I think you can handle having coffee with my mother. What if she hates me? She probably will. That's not helpful. Clara reached across the table and took his hand. Please, for me. Oh, he looked at their joined hands, then at her face. Fine. But if this goes badly, I'm blaming you. Deal. They visited the hospital on a Saturday. Victor wore a regular shirt and jeans instead of one of his suits, which Clara appreciated. He looked almost normal if you didn't notice the way he moved like a predator, or the way Alexei and two other guards waited in the parking lot. Her mother was sitting up in bed when they arrived, and her eyes went sharp the moment Victor walked in. So you're the one, she said. Victor moved to her bedside, and to Clara's shock, he took her mother's hand gently. Eleanor, I'm Victor. It's good to finally meet you. Is it? Her mother studied him like she could see straight through to his bones. My daughter looks at you like you hung the moon and she's furious about it. What did you do to earn that? Saved her life. Ruined it. Both, probably. Her mother laughed, sharp and surprised. At least you're honest. Sit down, Clara. Get me some water. I want to talk to him alone. Mom, it's okay, Victor said quietly. Go ahead. Clara left reluctantly, hovering just outside the door where she could see them but not quite hear what they were saying. She watched her mother lean forward, say something that made Victor's expression go carefully neutral. Watched him respond, his voice too low to make out. Watched her mother's face cycle through suspicion, surprise, and something that might have been approval. After 10 minutes that felt like an hour, her mother waved Clara back in. Well? Clara asked. He'll do, her mother said simply. That's it? He'll do. He loves you. He's terrified of it, but he loves you. That's enough for me. Clara looked at Victor, whose face gave away nothing. You told her you love me? I told her I'd burn down the world before I let anything happen to you. She interpreted that how she wanted. That's not the same thing, isn't it? He stood up, kissed Eleanor's hand. Thank you for raising someone who makes me want to be less of a monster. Thank you for giving her a reason to smile again, her mother said. Then to Clara, keep him. He's damaged and dangerous and probably going to get you killed, but at least you'll die happy. That's not comforting, Mom. It wasn't meant to be. It's the truth. Her mother settled back against her pillows, suddenly looking exhausted. Now get out of here, both of you. I need my nap. In the car, Clara turned to Victor. What did you really say to her? I told her the truth, that I'm not a good man, that I've done terrible things and I'll probably do more, but that you make me want to be better, and I'd do anything to keep you safe. And she was okay with that? She said that if I ever hurt you, she'd come back from the grave and haunt me until I went insane. He smiled slightly. I believe her. She would. They drove in silence for a while, and then Victor spoke again, his voice quieter. Your mother's right. Being with me is dangerous. More dangerous than you know. There are people who would hurt you just to hurt me. People who won't hesitate to use you as leverage. I know that. Do you? Really? He turned to look at her. Because once word gets out that you matter to me, and it will get out, you become a target, a permanent one. So what are you saying? That we should end this? I'm saying you should know what you're signing up for. You should have the choice. Despite all Barshades, Clara thought about the warehouse, about the blood on his shirt cuff, about the guns and the guards, and the life built on violence. She thought about his hands on her face in the dark, about the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing in his world, about coming back to the apartment and feeling like she was coming home. I choose this, she said. I choose you, danger and all. Victor pulled the car over abruptly, right there on the side of the road, turned to her with an intensity that stole her breath. Say it again. I choose you. He kissed her like she was oxygen, like she was everything, and Clara kissed him back and stopped feeling guilty about it. But 3 days later, everything went to hell. Clara was at the apartment alone, reading in the library, when Alexei burst in with an expression she'd never seen before. We have to go. Now. What? Why? There's been an attack. Someone hit one of Mr. Orlov's shipments. He's been trying to handle it, but they've threatened to target you next. We need to move you somewhere safe. Claire's blood went cold. Is Victor? He's alive, but he wants you out of the city. Now, pack a bag. 5 minutes. She didn't argue. Threw clothes into a bag with shaking hands, grabbed her phone, her mother's photo. Alexei was already on the phone, speaking in rapid Russian when she emerged. 3 cars were waiting downstairs. Alexei put her in the middle one, surrounded by guards, and they pulled into traffic. Where are we going? Mr. Orlov has a place in the mountains, 2 hours from here. He'll meet us there. What about my mother? Already been moved to a private facility under guard. She's safe. Clara's phone rang. Victor. Are you with Alexei? His voice was tight, controlled, but she could hear the fear underneath. Yeah, he said there was an attack. They're trying to get to me through you. I won't let that happen. Stay with Alexei. Do exactly what he says. I'll be there as soon as I can. Victor, I have to go. I love you. He hung up before she could respond, before she could process what he'd just said. The drive to the mountains was the longest 2 hours of her life. Clara watched the city disappear in the rearview mirror, watched the landscape change to trees and rocks in isolation. Alexei was tense, constantly checking his phone, his hand never far from the gun she could see under his jacket. They finally pulled up to a house that looked like something from a magazine. Modern, all glass and wood, perched on a hillside with views that would have been beautiful if Clara wasn't terrified. Inside, the house was immaculate and empty. Alexei did a sweep of every room while the other guards positioned themselves at strategic points. You're safe here, Alexei said. The house is secure, Mr. Orlov will be here soon. But soon turned into hours. Night fell. Clara tried calling Victor and got voicemail. Tried again. Nothing. She paced the living room, watching the driveway, jumping at every sound. When headlights finally appeared around midnight, she was at the door before Alexei could stop her. Victor got out of the car, and even from a distance she could see he was hurt. He was moving wrong, favoring his left side, and there was blood on his shirt. You're hurt, she said, meeting him halfway. I'm fine. You're bleeding. I've had worse. He pulled her into his arms, and she felt him shake. Are you okay? Did anyone follow you? Did anything happen? I'm fine. Alexei got me out safely. She pulled back to look at him. What happened? Come inside. I'll explain everything. In the house, under the lights, she could see the damage. A cut above his eye that would need stitches. Bruises forming on his jaw. The blood on his shirt from a wound he wouldn't let her see yet. She made him sit down while she got the first aid kit. He watched her clean his cuts with the same intensity he watched everything, like he was memorizing the moment. They ambushed one of my shipments, he said finally. Killed 3 of my men, left a message that you were next. Who? The Kozlov family. They've been trying to move in on my territory for months. This was their opening move. And I made it very clear that touching you would be the last mistake they ever made. His voice was cold, empty of emotion. They won't be a problem anymore. Clara's hand stilled. What did you do? What I had to do. He caught her wrist gently. I'm not sorry. I'd do it again. I'd do worse. Anyone who tries to hurt you, I'll destroy them, Clara. Completely. She should have been horrified, should have pulled away. Instead, she kissed him, tasting blood and smoke and the violence he carried like a second skin. You said you loved me, she whispered against his mouth. On the phone, you said it. I did. Did you mean it? Yes. No hesitation. I've never said that to anyone before. I mean it. I love you too. The words felt like jumping off a cliff. I don't want to. I wish I didn't, but I do. Victor pulled her into his lap, careful of his injuries, and held her like she was the only thing anchoring him to the world. We're going to stay here for a while, he said, until it's safe, until I'm sure no one can get to you. How long? I don't know. Days, maybe weeks. What about my mother? She's safe. I have my best people watching her. He touched her face. I need you here. I need to know you're safe. Clara looked around at the beautiful, isolated house, at the guards positioned at every entrance, at Victor's face, battered but determined. Okay, she said. We stay. The mountain house became their world. For the first week, Clara barely left Victor's side. She watched him heal, the cut above his eye scabbing over, the bruises on his jaw fading from purple to yellow-green. He worked from the house, his laptop and phone constantly buzzing with calls he'd taken Russian while pacing the deck that overlooked the valley below. But the nights were theirs. They'd sit by the fireplace with wine neither of them really drank, talking about everything and nothing. Victor told her about growing up in Moscow, about the father who'd taught him that love was weakness and violence was currency. Clara told him about her father leaving when she was 12, about learning to take care of her mother even when she was just a kid herself. We're both just damaged people trying to figure out how to be whole, Clara said one night, her head on his shoulder. Maybe that's all anyone is, Victor replied. We just hide it better than most. On the 10th day, Clara woke up alone. She found Victor on the deck despite the morning chill, staring out at the mountains with an expression she couldn't read. You okay? She asked, wrapping a blanket around herself. I've been thinking. About? He turned to face her. About what happens next. We can't stay here forever. Eventually we have to go back to the real world. I know. And when we do, things will be different. People will know about you, about us. There's no going back from that. Clara moved closer, the cold forgotten. Are you having second thoughts? No, but I'm giving you one more chance to have them. He took her hands. Once we leave here, once you're publicly tied to me, there's no safe way out. You'll always be a target, always have guards, always be looking over your shoulder. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to give you a choice, a real one this time. His grip tightened. I can arrange for you and your mother to disappear. New identities, new lives, anywhere in the world you want to go. Her treatment will be covered for life. You'll have enough money to never work again. You'll be safe. Clara's heart was pounding. And you? I stay here. Stay in this life. We never see each other again. You'd let me go? If it meant keeping you safe? Yes. His voice cracked slightly. I love you enough to let you go, Clara. That's what I'm trying to tell you. She looked at him, this man who'd killed for her and would die for her, who was offering her freedom even though it would destroy him. What do you want? She asked. I want to be selfish. I want to keep you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night and tell the rest of the world to go to hell. He pulled her closer. But what I want doesn't matter. What matters is what's best for you. And you think leaving is what's best for me? I think staying with me is the most dangerous decision you could make. But it's your decision, not mine, not anymore. Clara thought about her old life, the diner shifts and the debt collectors and the constant fear. She thought about her mother's face when the pain was too much to bear. She thought about feeling invisible, feeling like she didn't matter, feeling like she was drowning and no one could see her going under. Then she thought about Victor's hands on her face in the dark, about learning to stop apologizing for wanting things, about discovering that she was stronger than she'd ever believed she could be. I choose you, she said. I choose this life, danger and all. Clara, I mean it. I'm not some helpless girl who needs to be protected from herself. I know what I'm choosing. I know what it costs, and I choose you anyway. Victor kissed her like she was his last breath, and Clara kissed him back and felt something settle in her chest. A rightness that had nothing to do with safety and everything to do with choice. Okay, he said against her mouth. Then we do this together, really together. No more secrets. No more me making decisions without you. Partners. Partners, she agreed. And Clara, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you never regret this. I know you will. They left the mountain house 3 days later. The drive back to the city felt different this time. Clara wasn't being dragged into Victor's world anymore. She was walking into it with her eyes open, with her chin up, with her hand in his. Alexei drove while Victor worked on his laptop in the back seat, occasionally squeezing Clara's hand like he needed to make sure she was still there. When they hit the city limits, he closed the laptop and looked at her. "There's something we need to do before we go home." "What?" "You'll see." They drove to a part of the city Clara had never been to before. Old warehouses converted into lofts, art galleries, coffee shops that looked like they belonged in magazines. Alexei pulled up in front of a building with floor-to-ceiling windows and a sign that said, "Mercy's Kitchen." "What is this?" Clara asked. "A community kitchen. They serve free meals to people who need them, run job training programs, help people get back on their feet." Victor got out of the car and came around to open her door. "I've been funding it for 5 years. Nobody knows. I want to show you something." Inside, the space was warm and bustling. People lined up for food, volunteers moved between tables, and in the kitchen, Clara could see someone teaching a cooking class. It was chaotic and beautiful and completely unexpected. A woman in her 40s approached them, her face lighting up when she saw Victor. "Mr. Orloff, we weren't expecting you." "Surprise visit, Maria. This is Clara. Clara, this is Maria Santos. She runs the place." Maria shook Clara's hand warmly. "It's wonderful to meet you. Victor's told me so much about you." "He has?" "He called last week asking for advice on how to set up a medical fund for people who can't afford treatment. Said he knew someone who'd been through that struggle." Maria smiled. "We serve about 300 people a day here, all because of Victor's funding. He won't let us put his name on anything, but he's saved more lives than I can count." Clara looked at Victor, who suddenly seemed uncomfortable. "It's just money," he said. "It's not just money," Maria corrected gently. "It's hope. It's dignity. It's the difference between eating and starving for a lot of people." She gestured around the room. "Come on, let me show you around." They spent an hour at Mercy's kitchen. Clara watched Victor talk to people like they mattered, watched him listen to their stories, watched him promise to help a single mother get a job and tell a teenager he'd pay for his culinary school tuition. This wasn't the ruthless mafia boss. This was someone else entirely. In the car afterward, Clara turned to him. "How long have you been doing this?" "The kitchen? 5 years. Other things?" "Longer." He looked out the window. "My father taught me that power comes from fear, that the only thing that matters is how much you can take from the world. But I've learned that real power comes from what you give back, from building something that matters." "Why didn't you tell me about this before?" "Because it doesn't change what I am. I still do terrible things, Clara. I still hurt people when I need to. The fact that I fund a soup kitchen doesn't make me a good person." "Maybe not, but it makes you a complicated one." She took his hand. "I think that's better than good. Good is boring. Good is fake. Complicated is real." He laughed, surprised. "Only you would think that." "Only me. Only you would see the worst parts of me and decide you want to know more instead of running away." He kissed her knuckles. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not, but you've got me anyway." When they got back to the apartment, Clara felt something shift. This wasn't the gilded cage she'd been dragged to months ago. This was home, messy and complicated and built on a foundation that would horrify most people, but home nonetheless. Margaret greeted them at the elevator with a smile that looked genuinely relieved. "Welcome back. I've prepared your rooms and there's dinner ready whenever you're hungry." "Thank you, Margaret," Victor said. Then to Clara, "I have some calls to make. Business that can't wait." "Go. I'll be fine." He kissed her forehead and disappeared into his office. Clara wandered to the windows, looking out at the city spread below her. She pulled out her phone and called her mother. "Baby, are you back in the city?" "Yeah, just got in. How are you feeling?" "Good. Really good, actually. Dr. Chen said the latest scans show significant improvement. She's talking about me being able to leave the hospital in a few weeks." Clara's eyes burned. "That's amazing, Mom." "It is. Thanks to you, thanks to Victor." A pause. "How are you doing? Really?" "I'm okay. Better than okay, actually." "You sound different. Settled." "I think I am. I know this whole situation is insane. I know it started in the worst possible way. But I've made my choice, Mom. I'm staying with him. Really staying. Not because I have to, but because I want to." "Then I'm happy for you." her mother said simply. Life's too short to spend it being safe and miserable. If he makes you happy, if you've chosen this with your whole heart, then that's enough for me. Even though he's dangerous, even though my life will never be normal? Normal is overrated. You spent your whole life playing it safe, taking care of everyone else, making yourself small so other people could be comfortable. Maybe it's time you lived dangerously. Maybe that's exactly what you need. They talked for another 20 minutes before hanging up. Clara stood by the windows until the sun set, watching the city lights come on one by one, thinking about choices and consequences and the strange paths that lead us to where we're supposed to be. Victor found her there an hour later. Everything okay? Yeah, just thinking. About how 6 months ago I was drowning, working myself to death, watching my mother die, feeling invisible and powerless and so fucking alone. She turned to face him. And then you showed up and turned my entire life upside down. I'm still not sure if I saved you or ruined you. Maybe both. Maybe that's the point. She moved closer. I've spent my whole life being afraid. Afraid to want things. Afraid to take up space. Afraid to demand more from the world. You taught me how to stop being afraid. I'm not sure that's a good thing. It is. Because I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm not afraid of this life, or what it means, or what people will think. I'm just not afraid. Victor pulled her close. You should be a little afraid. Fear keeps you careful. I'll be careful, but I won't be afraid. Not of this. Not of us. The next few weeks were a blur of activity. Victor had been serious about making Clara a partner, not a possession. He showed her the legitimate sides of his business first, the real estate holdings, the shipping companies, the investments, taught her how to read financial statements, introduced her to his lawyers and accountants, explained how money moved through systems most people never saw. Then he showed her the rest. You don't have to be involved in this part, he said, pulling up files on his laptop. But if you're going to be with me, you should understand all of it. So Clara learned about the shipments that moved through his ports without customs inspections, the money that got cleaned through his legitimate businesses, the protection services that were really extortion with better branding, the whole complex machinery of an empire built on the gray edges of the law. It should have horrified her. Maybe it did. A little. But she'd stopped expecting herself to react the way she was supposed to. She'd stopped judging herself for the choices she'd made and the person she was becoming. One evening, Victor came home with news. I met with the other families today. All of them. Clara looked up from the book she'd been reading. And I told them about you. Officially. Made it clear that you're under my protection, that you're part of my life, that anyone who touches you answers to me personally. How did they take it? Some of them think I've gone soft. Some of them see it as a strategic weakness. He sat down beside her. But they all understand the message. You're not a secret anymore. You're mine, and everyone knows it. Does that make you nervous? Terrified. He took her hand. But it also makes me feel like I'm finally building something real. Not just power, something that matters. 2 months after they'd returned from the mountains, Clara's mother was released from the hospital. Victor had bought her a house. Not a mansion, not something ostentatious, but a comfortable 3-bedroom in a good neighborhood with a garden and round-the-clock nursing care available if she needed it. This is too much, Eleanor said when they showed her. It's not enough, Victor replied. But it's a start. Clara watched her mother walk through the house, touching walls and windows like she couldn't believe they were real. Watched her stand in the garden and cry because she'd thought she'd never see sunshine outside a hospital window again. Thank you, Eleanor said to Victor later, taking his hand. For saving her. For saving me. For giving us both a second chance. Thank you for raising someone worth saving, Victor said quietly. That night, back at the apartment, Clara found Victor on the deck again. She'd learned this was where he went when he needed to think. You okay? She asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. I've been thinking about the future. What about it? About what I want it to look like. I've spent my whole life building power, building wealth, building fear, But I'm tired, Clara. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder, tired of wondering which one of my people is going to betray me next, tired of living like I'm constantly at war. So what do you want instead? I want to build something legitimate, something that lasts beyond me. I want to take all this money, all this power, and turn it into something that matters. He turned to face her. I want to expand the community kitchen, start more of them, fund medical programs for people who can't afford treatment, create jobs, create opportunities, create something good from all the bad I've done. Victor, I know I can't undo the past, can't bring back the people I've hurt, but I can try to balance the scales a little. And I want to do it with you, not as my prisoner or my possession, as my partner, as someone who helps me be better than I am. Clara's throat was tight. You're serious? Completely. I'm not giving up the business. I can't, not entirely, but I can shift the focus, move more into legitimate operations, use the power I have to actually help people instead of just controlling them. He cupped her face. I want to be someone you can be proud of, someone worthy of the choice you made. I'm already proud of you, she whispered. You're not perfect. You've done terrible things, but you're trying to be better. That's all anyone can do. Will you help me? Will you be part of this? Yes. Of course, yes. 6 months later, Clara stood in front of the Third Mercy's kitchen location, watching Victor cut the ribbon while cameras flashed and reporters took notes. He'd insisted on putting his name on this one, making it public, using his reputation to attract donors and support. Mr. Orlov, some people say you're trying to buy redemption, a reporter called out. What do you say to that? Victor looked at Clara, then back at the reporter. I'd say redemption isn't for sale, but responsibility is something you choose every day. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, hurt a lot of people, but I'm choosing to do better, to be better. That's all I can control. Later, at the opening celebration, Clara watched Victor talk to the people who'd come for a meal. Watched him promise a young woman he'd pay for her nursing school. Watched him hire a man on the spot to work security at one of his buildings. Watched him be the version of himself she'd always suspected existed under all the violence and control. Maria found Clara in the crowd. He's different because of you, you know. I didn't do anything. You loved him. You chose him even when you didn't have to. That changed everything. Maria smiled. I've known Victor for years. I've seen him do generous things, but always from a distance, always anonymous. You made him brave enough to step into the light. That night, exhausted and happy, Clara and Victor fell into bed without bothering to undress properly. I'm proud of you, Sa, Clara said, her head on his chest. I'm proud of us. He kissed her hair. A year ago, I was a man who took what he wanted without caring about the cost. Then you stumbled into my life and called me on my bullshit and somehow made me want to be better. I didn't make you do anything. You chose this. We chose this together. He shifted to look at her. I know this isn't the fairy tale. I know I'm not the prince who saves you, but I think maybe we saved each other. I think maybe you're right. I love you, Clara Bennett. I love you for seeing the worst of me and staying anyway. I love you for being brave enough to choose danger over safety. I love you for making me believe I could be more than what my father taught me to be. I love you too, Clara said. I love you for giving me my mother back. I love you for teaching me I'm allowed to want things. I love you for being complicated and damaged and real instead of perfect and fake. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, two broken people who'd somehow managed to build something whole from all their jagged pieces. A year and a half after Clara had first walked into Victor's life, her mother threw a party. It was small, just Clara and Victor and a few close friends, celebrating Eleanor's 1-year cancer-free anniversary. They gathered in the garden of her house, eating food that Victor had catered from the best restaurant in the city, drinking wine that cost more than Clara used to make in a month. To second chances, Eleanor said, raising her glass. To unlikely love stories. To my daughter, who's braver than she ever knew. And to Victor, who gave us all the gift of tomorrow. They drank to that. Later, when the guests had left and Eleanor had gone inside to rest, Clara and Victor stood in the garden watching the sunset. Do you ever regret it? Victor asked quietly. The choice you made, the life you chose. Clara thought about the girl she'd been. Exhausted, afraid, invisible. She thought about everything she'd lost. The simplicity of a normal life, the safety of anonymity, the comfort of never having to look over her shoulder. Then she thought about everything she'd gained. Her mother's life, her own strength, a love that was messy and complicated and real, a purpose beyond just surviving. No, she said honestly. I don't regret it. Not even the hard parts. Not even the scary parts. This life chose me as much as I chose it, and I think that's how it was supposed to happen. Victor pulled her close. You know what the strangest part is? What? I set out to own you, to possess you, to make you mine through control and fear. And instead you owned me, completely. You looked at the monster and decided to love it anyway, and that changed everything. You were never a monster. You were just a man who'd forgotten how to be human. I just reminded you. You did more than that. You made me want to be worth the choice you made me want to deserve you. Clara turned in his arms to face him. You do deserve me, and I deserve you. We deserve this messy, complicated, beautiful life we built together. They stood there as the sun set over the city, two people who'd found each other in the darkest possible circumstances and somehow managed to build something that looked like light. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was better than that. It was real, messy and imperfect and earned through hard choices and harder truths. Clara had learned that sometimes love isn't about being saved. Sometimes it's about choosing to save yourself and finding someone brave enough to do the same thing and building a life together from all the broken pieces. She'd walked into that nightclub a drowning girl, looking for air. She'd stumbled into Victor's world by accident and stayed by choice. And somewhere along the way, she'd learned the most important truth of all, that freedom isn't about having no chains. It's about choosing which ones you wear and who you wear them for and making damn sure it's worth it. Standing there in the garden with Victor's arms around her and her mother's laughter drifting through the windows and the city lights beginning to glow in the distance, Clara knew she'd made the right choice. Not because it was safe, not because it was easy, but because it was hers. Completely, utterly, terrifyingly hers. And that made all the difference.